So here we are. I've got in front of me now a blue piece of, well, we're calling it lino. It's a polymer. It's a kind of a concoction of plasticky things. And I'd love to say that, you know, in terms of the environment, that we could use a totally natural product, but I mean, you're not going to be throwing it away. That's the thing. So it's not a single-use plastic, so that's acceptable. And this is another piece of lino, the grey colour. So you might have either of these two included in one of my kits if you bought one of my kits. I sell them both, these kinds, and I also sell the traditional pale grey clay Hessian-backed lino. I also sell that too, but for the purpose of today, I'm going to be working on what I discussed earlier, this easy cut or super soft. Sometimes it's marketed as that, but it's almost like, it's so bendy, it's like rubber. It's great for a beginner. I mean, in terms of advantages and disadvantages, when you come to printing, a slightly harder base or lino block is going to serve you better in terms of longevity, how long it lasts, because those lovely sharp edges that you've carved are going to start to wear away over time. So if it's a harder material, obviously it's going to be a bit more long lasting, but I'm talking about a long time. And also just getting the crispness of lines around those bends. So in summary, what I'm saying is start off with the blue if you can. My lino tool that's included in my kit is fine to use with both of these qualities. So another point to note is that in my kits I always include design templates. So you might have bought, for example, the Midnight Garden kit, which, here you go, here's my lino plate that I have cut in the production when I've produced my Midnight Garden single colour one block print that's been really popular. So the templates will be included in the kit. Again, same for this one, my botanical. This has been quite popular recently. My botanical cut theme print plate. And there you can see side by side with the finished print. And it prints like this. So you can see one has got a lot of white on the background, and that's where I've cut a surface away the paler colour. And then the other one, by contrast, we've been cutting away the areas that we want to be the image almost. It's very tricky sometimes to get your head around the idea of the positivity and the negative, positive, negative space. I don't want to go into too much detail about design today. We're really just here to look at the tool and to how to approach mark making. So you can draw on this lino with a pencil, and if you make a mistake or you change your mind, you can just use I don't know, lick your finger or damp cloth, something like that, to rub it away. The pencil marks won't print. And what I'm going to create today is, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the 5 shaped blades that you get with the tool. I'm going to create 5 kind of cutting areas. So I'm hoping you can see that. So I've done one kind of thin strip across the width, and then the other remaining section I've cut in half, and then I'm going to cut that in half again. So we're going to do some lines, and then we're going to do some textures. So you should have 4 equal sections and 1 kind of longer section. Don't worry about measuring this or being too prescriptive. It doesn't matter. And I'm going to give you a heads up to as to the lines we're going to make. You don't have to do this. But we're going to do, say, some straight lines. Then we're going to do zigzag. And we'll do a dotted line. The continuous lines that we can put in there. Here, we're going to call this spots, dots, circles, and curls. We're going to do some in there like that. This one is dots and dashes. Just going to think, before I commit to cutting with my lino tool, I'm just using the pencil to kind of brainstorm a little bit and think about the marks that I want to create. You don't have to copy this exactly. You can come up with your own marks yourself, or you can copy, it's fine either. This is going to be like a cross hatch in this corner here with some waves, maybe some V's, triangle type shapes. And then in this last one here, we're going to section off an area and cut away the middle. Then we're going to do almost like a spine, or like a fishbone or something, or a feather, and some squares. Squares inside squares. Okay, so I've got a bit of a plan. So take your lino cutting tool handle, and a lot of them on the market are very similar to this, just made out of plastic. It's called an ergonomic shape because it basically, as you're cutting, it will fit into the palm of your hand. Okay, and the top should screw away. Sometimes when they're brand new, that can be a little bit stiff and it cannot screw all the way down. So I would just say before you start work, I always just give it a few twists, go really tight and then come away, go really tight, and it'll just help that thread loosen up so that you can use it. And you want to be taking, let's take number 1. And if you have a look at the profile of number 1, I don't know whether you can see that there, maybe a little. It's kind of, I'd say it's more of a V. So it's a lining tool. So it's a mark making lining tool. So you'll see one end is sharp, and it is sharp. It's deceiving how sharp it is. One end is sharp and the other end is like a half moon shape, softer half moon, more blunt. So the blunt half moon shape fits in like a jigsaw puzzle or like a key in a keyhole, kind of just fits in. And if you've removed your cuff around the top, you'll be able to see that has pushed all the way down into the hole, and then replace your screw top and tighten. I'd just say as you're tightening, make sure you don't put your hand over the blade anywhere. And you can give a little tug at that to check it's in, that's fine. Okay, so this is blade number 1. We're calling a liner or a mark tool, and I just want you to make a continuous line. So the way I'm holding this is always, I'd say, hold your liner tool with both hands. So you're going to be holding it like this in one hand. So I'm putting my finger just on the cuff, on the screw bit there, just to guide it. And I'm also putting, with this hand, I'm holding the lino, and I'm also putting a finger just on the cuff or on the very top of the blade, just to give it control. And away I go. I'm hoping you can see that. And just do a couple of continuous lines. You shouldn't need to apply a lot of pressure. Don't go too deep. And maybe then start to think about doing a wiggly line. As you come to the end of your lines that you're cutting, you can either flick up and it'll come away, or if it's left behind, let me try and do one where it's going to be left behind. There we go, I've just stopped, so I've not flicked up and it's still attached, and you've got a tail, and you might get this sometime. So I just lift the liner up, just bend it, take the edge of that curl, and I'm just using my lino tool just to nick it and pull it off, and it should pull away. And you get a very different ending. You get a very sharp, almost square end. Okay, so that's liner number 1. So you can see how easy that was to use. Now I'm going to swap to blade number 2. So you can see I'm just releasing the cuff, not touching the blade. And I'm adding, I'm going to take my cuff completely off, and I want to have a look. Yep, the blade has gone completely in. It's blade number 2. Your cuff should fit over the top. Screw it back on. If you're having trouble releasing your cuff to get your blade out, just use a cloth. Don't put your hand, don't put this into the palm of your hand. Just use a cloth to just hold the nib and pull it gently out, and it should come out with a cloth. Okay, there we go. Yeah, we're happy with that. And now I'm going to do the same again with cutter number 2. And if you look at the profile of the end, you'll see it's wider. Compare it to number 1. It's a little bit wider, so you're going to go a little bit deeper. And you can see in the result of the lino that you've cut there, it's a much thicker, more pronounced line. Why don't have a go with zigzags? I mean, it's just so therapeutic. It's so easy that it comes away. Okay, so that's number 2. We're going to continue with number 2 now, and we're going to go on to the dots and dashes section. And I'm going to go down and flick up, almost like I am, let's see, like a butter scoop or ice cream scoop. Sometimes I find it easier to pick the lino up and just bend it slightly. And you can do that too. There's no rules to say you can or can't do anything. Just be very careful. And you're almost chipping away at the surface, making these cute little dashes. So you don't want them to be round, you want them to be slightly elongated. And it's a bit like the marks that are left behind by a bird in the snow. It's that kind of really nice natural pattern. I'm going to swap to blade number 3 and have a look at number 3. Look at the profile, compare it to the other two, and it's more rounded, it's more scoop. So I'm going to draw a circle. In the circles and dots section, and you can see I'm keeping the lino cutter static and I'm turning the lino. That for me is the easiest way. And as a form of practice, why not see how small you can go? See how small you can get a circle, and it might be that you use blade number 1. And do you remember I said about the V's? So 1 and 2, I would say, are the V's. 3 is a gouger. And just take it slow. Watch your fingers. Sometimes it's nice not to remove all of that surface area. Sometimes it's nice to leave some of it behind, because as it prints, it will be characteristically looking like a lino print. I'm just choosing which ones I want to do next. I'm not really following any order, but okay, I'm going back over like a tram line. And this is quite a good one for you to practice because it's bumpy. It's a bit like pushing a shopping trolley over a cattle grid. It wants to derail. You can either have these, or you could close that edge off and turn them into triangles. Cut away the centre. How about dots? Tiny dots. They're always very difficult. I tend to fold my lino and I just pick at the surface. Just watch your fingers. And that's how to get the smallest little dots. Alternatively, you can just go round in a circle and then flick up, and it'll pick away almost like a cone shape, but it won't go quite as small. While you're practicing, maybe just try and go as light and delicate as you possibly can to create a mark, and then go heavy-handed and try and get large surface areas away. Just really experiment and play around. And here, just make sure you're pulling away all those bits of loose lino that aren't quite attached but aren't quite coming away. You don't want those for when you come to print. And then just for this last section here, I'm going to use this blade number 5, which looks a bit like a mini axe. Just be careful. And this is an edger. So what you'll have noticed when you use your lino cutting profiles, your blades, is you tend to get sort of a pointy, it comes to a point where it's flicked up at the end. So it's really hard to get a straight line in printing, but that's what this edger will do. For example, if I was to cut, and just be careful when you do this, not to go through to the other side, have a practice with the amount of pressure that you need to apply. And you can see that's cut away a little slit. And that then allows you, I'm going to swap to blade number 4, which is a super scoop. It's quite a large gouging tool. Will then allow you to cut, just watch your fingers, up slowly to that edge. Go as close as you can visually see, and just if you just pull that tail, you're going to get a nice clean edge, and sometimes that's what you want. And it's almost like a sunbeam. Quite nice if you're doing shells or something like that. Create as many of these sample practice sheets of lino as you like, and even go ahead and print them. So you're making that connection between designing a mark, cutting a mark, and printing a mark, which, you know, is always going to be in reverse. And it's also understanding the positive and the negative. So go ahead and print it. And you can use the reverse of this lino too.